Hollywood putting out movies that are anti-American, in particular anti-white America, movies that are anti-police, movies that are anti-military, movies that despise our past and our history, movies that erase our borders and make a mockery of our border patrol, movies that make a mockery of the English language, movies that say we have no culture. No, I would argue the contrary, my friends. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. I put it on my Facebook over the weekend because I was a little boy, 4 or 5 years old in the Bronx. I'd sit with my little phonograph. There was a hand-wound, could you believe it? I had a hand-wound phonograph. Maybe my parents thought I'd get electrocuted if I had electricity. I would wind the thing up, and I'd play this song by Gene Autry over and over and over again, dreaming of the wide open spaces to get out of that cramped little horrible apartment. 5, 6 of us were living in there. I don't know how many, whatever. It was clean, but boy, I just wanted to be in the wide open spaces, and I always dreamed of the West. And now I'm living in the West. Whatever. Now I could do with some Gene Autry music right now. Highest ever number of migrants arriving in Europe. Highest ever number, with October eclipsing the entire of 2014. And you're telling me that Merkel and Cameron and the others in the evil union should not be tried for war crimes? Are you telling me that if we had a sane world, that Merkel and the others wouldn't be arrested immediately by Interpol and arrested for invading their own nation? They're invading their own nation. You don't do this to a country without having a vote, unless you're a criminal and you're imposing it on your people. I think that Putin should be given a Nobel Prize for taking on the Islamic State, while Barry from Honolulu dithered and entertained himself and crushed the Republican Party and stamped on the Constitution and stepped on the American people. Putin stepped up to the plate and started to pound those vermin into the Stone Age where they belong, make them into powder, kill every last one of them. Then the Syrians should be deported from Europe. Every last Syrian who came into Europe should be deported back to Syria to rebuild their nation. And that goes for Africans as well, who are fleeing Africa directly as a result of that lunatic Hillary Clinton with her Arab Spring. She caused this mass migration out of Africa because of bringing down Gaddafi. Do you understand any of this? It's all in government zero. And maybe I'm getting ahead of my audience. I realize most of you don't want to hear it's too hot for you. I get it. It's Monday, weekend, World Series, Halloween, and blah, blah, blah. You don't want to hear any of this. You don't want to hear about a nation anymore. You had enough. Maybe you did. Maybe my inner mind part, the part of my mind that has feedback, knows that you can't take it anymore. Okay? Just because I'm a living thesaurus of what's going on doesn't mean that you want to hear it. Maybe you don't want to read the thesaurus right now or listen to the thesaurus. Maybe you'd rather talk about Dinosaurus Rex. I don't know the answer to what the average person out there wants. I know that the nation is a sad sack right now, but I have great hope that the country can come back. I still do. I know the millennials are very conservative. The media won't show you that, but it's a gigantic cultural phenomenon going on right now. And it's not atypical, by the way. Children usually react to their parents in an opposite way. The hippie generation reacted to the overly conservative parents that they had. Then the children of the hippies are becoming conservative. It's the way of the world. The question is, why don't they stand up and be counted? Well, they don't know what to do it. You know, that's the whole point. Anyway, let's move on to something else. And I don't know where I want to go yet. Friday, I did an interesting show, and I asked men why they're afraid to get married. Are they afraid of women? Remember that show? It was a simple question. Men, young men, why are you afraid of women? Why are you afraid of becoming a father? And we had great calls on it. It was a pretty interesting show, in case you missed it. It was groundbreaking in talk radio because it wasn't just politics. Most people don't want to hear about politics right now. But if you want to talk about that, you can throw it back up in the air and let's talk about it, because it's a good topic. The fact of the matter is the white race is dying out across the planet. I know you can't say it, but, you know, if I was saying it and it was false, I wouldn't be on the radio another second. If you look at the birth rate amongst European nations and then compare the birth rate to Arabic-speaking nations, Muslim-dominated nations, African nations, you'll see a certain alarming trend. And if you project it forward by 50 years, you realize that a certain demographic will disappear from the planet by and large. Now, you have to ask yourself, why is this happening? Why are men afraid to get married and have children? Do you think it was easy 20 years ago? Do you think it was easier 50 years ago? Do you think it was easier 100 years ago? Do you think it was easier to get married and have a family 150 years ago? No, my friends. People had babies. They got married under very, very difficult circumstances. They didn't wait for a magic wand to come down from heaven and tell them to get married and have a child. And it's a combination of things. I don't know. It's not like blaming anyone. But I would encourage you to understand that the hardest thing and most important thing and most phenomenal thing a man could do is have a family. Because you'll wind up otherwise a 50-year-old with hair plugs chasing women. That's all you'll be, is an old man chasing women. Is that what you want to be? With no children, nothing in your life? Listen to me. Listen to me. Do something good for yourself. Get married and have a child. I'll be right back. It's the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now. 855-400-SAVAGE. 855-400-7282. Savage.
Too early in the morning. Turn it off. It's too early on a Monday. I'm not ready for the could-be magic job. All right, so let's look at Germany. I allege that Angela Merkel is a war criminal, and I believe Angela Merkel should be tried in a People's Hague. You've never heard that anywhere. You never heard that anywhere. German Chancellor Angela Merkel is committing a war crime against her own people by invading Germany with foreigners who will never assimilate. Instead, the Germans are forced to accommodate people who are alien to their society, will never become Germans, will never, ever adapt to Germany, and they want Germany to adapt to them. German Chancellor Angela Merkel is a war criminal, and there should be a people's tribunal. She should be found guilty. That's number one. Number two, Putin should be given a Nobel Peace Prize for taking on ISIS while our false leader made believe he was conducting a war against ISIS. Now let's look at a story and you decide for yourself. Germany. Ready for this? Church removes altar, pulpits, and Christian crosses to make refugees feel welcome. The Protestant church in Oberhausen, Germany, offered to make the group of 50 Muslims feel more welcome. Pastor Joachim Dettering said, "Before the refugees can move in, the seats have to be taken away. Also, the altar, the pulpit, and font are movable. Washing machines will also be installed in the church, and refugees will be given free meals, according to German newspaper Handelsblatt." Now, earlier this month, the Bishop of Stockholm, Sweden, told a church in her diocese, she's a lesbian, by the way, to remove all signs of the cross to make the building more inviting for Muslim worshippers. Does the lesbian bishop understand what Muslims think of lesbians? Does she understand she's committing a form of not only cultural suicide, but perhaps even personal suicide? Now it gets even worse. The lesbian bishop of Stockholm also said the direction of Mecca should be marked and called Muslim refugees. She called Muslim refugees angels. Eva Brunn, that's funny, Eva Brunn, very close to Eva Braun, said it is important that there are places for praying sisters and brothers, and we show hospitality and tolerance regardless of faith. Doesn't that sound good on paper, that we show tolerance regardless of faith? Don't you think that that's theologically advanced to say that? Well, there are priests who don't believe that it is tolerant to say that. Father Patrick Pedersen said, the only argument Bishop Eva really put forward in support of review is hospitality. How do you respond to that? Not much of a basis for discussion. The theological, ecclesiological, and pastoral and working issues are left untouched, he said. Well, that's because he's not a talk show host. But the fact of the matter is, this is a situation that is now out of control. But if it was only Germany and England and France and Hungary, it would be one thing. But it's not. It's going on right here in the United States of America while Barry and his sorority continue to invade America with people against the will of the American people. Because every poll, no matter who does the poll, shows that overwhelmingly people say enough is enough. No more illegal immigrants into this country. No more refugees in this country. Period. End of story. What's amazing to me, what's the most amazing part, is how the evil people in the so-called black community, who have been so vociferous in hating America for so many years, cashing in on it, by the way, in their hatred, have nothing to say about the influx of illegal aliens into this country, who are harming predominantly, by the way, poor people in this country. And many black people, as you well know, are poor. Why is it that the black community is not standing up against this refugee swarm that Obama wants to bring into the country? How is it going to help poor people in this country to take care of another huge population of poor people? Answer, zero immigration. Zero, zero, zero. Zero. No immigrants. No percentage of immigrants is necessary in a nation that has a lifeboat that is full. Any more immigrants and the lifeboat will swamp. Everyone will suffer. Now, in Government Zero, I have a chapter entitled, and I'm going to go to it right now, Zero Immigration, page 158. And the first subhead is, what country is this? Sleeper cells among us, leaving Christians to the wolves. The sleepers awaken, importing crime, importing disease, importing socialism, illegal immigrants for profit, meaning who is cashing in on the immigrant surge. I name names and I name the corporations. On page 189, I give you some hope. Can we get America back? And it's only hope. It is only hope to get America back. Because unless there is a people's tribunal for these evil socialists who hate borders, language, and culture, there is no hope. And I think we need to establish a people's tribunal in this country and in Europe and start trying the leaders for crimes against humanity, because that is what they are committing. They're committing crimes against their own people. If that is not a crime against humanity, tell me what is. I stand by my words. I see it as clearly as I stand here before this microphone. I'm as clear as a bell. And I will say it again. Should people's tribunals be established in Europe and in America and try the so-called leaders who are invading their own nation with foreigners who will never assimilate, forcing the nation itself to accommodate foreigners who will never ever assimilate to their nation. Is that not a war crime? Tell me what is. Tell me what a war crime is. What, do you actually have to kill a nation in order to be found guilty? They're killing a nation softly. You know, there are various methods that are used by revolutionaries. Obama's the most clever leftist in history. He has used a form of soft communism, soft Marxism, to invade this nation and to corrupt it to the extent that the American people don't even know what he's doing. He's such a genius at what he does that he can conduct himself like this with a sleight of hand, and the people don't even know what he's doing to this country. The average moron walking around with a candy corn over the weekend, a schmendrick walking around with a Halloween costume on, drunk in the streets of white America, he knows what's going on. All he says is, oh, be tolerant. Oh, don't be so mean. Oh, we're a nation of immigrants. They have all the answers, don't they? They have all the answers, but all of them are incorrect. As I've been so careful to explain to you, that a nation is defined by its borders, language, and culture. And you cannot just bring in any number of people into a nation without destroying its identity. So now let's go to the next point. What's so important about a national identity? What is so important about it? Why can't we all be, like Obama says, a citizen of the world? Don't many liberals who are so advanced, all the therapists, all of the professors who travel to Thailand for sex, don't they all tell you that they're citizens of the world? What they really mean is they like cheap sex and brothels in Thailand, where they can conduct themselves with 14-year-old children. That's what they really mean by citizens of the world, because they know that the laws are much less strict in The Hague, which I won't go into. I won't go into The Hague and who runs it, and who they are, these devious war criminals. Now, if you think I'm angry, I apologize in advance, but I'm also being very, very truthful in what I'm saying to you. I may be angry right now. I'm really more agitated than I am angry. I'm not angry at all. I'm agitated because I don't know how much longer this world can survive with these war criminals running our countries. Let's start using the correct word. Merkel is committing war crimes. Is she or not? Is she or is she not, in your opinion? It is a talk show. It's heard around the world on the internet. Is there someone in Germany listening to this show right now who disagrees with me? Robert, leave a few lines open. I want European callers right now. What is it now? I'll get on the old clock, +9, 8 from 5 in the morning. There must be an insomniac in Germany somewhere who's hearing this show. Is there a German listening to this show who disagrees with me when I say that Angela Merkel is committing war crimes against her own people? I want to hear it. That's all. I don't know if we're going to get any. 855-400-7282 is the phone number. Let's get some callers. And let's go to WMAL. Ken, welcome to the program. He's calling from Washington, D.C. on line 9. Ken, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Dr. Savage. I went to the bookstore yesterday, and there were ample copies of your new novel. And on the front cover, there was a photograph of you. And within a second after I saw it, it reminded me of the movie Gary Cooper starred in High Noon, and he was a lawman who was not supported by his community, and he went out to face the enemy alone, and he was wounded and survived. And that's all I can remember